get from all grade levels from our TK students. Our second speaker is a professor of science at Indiana University, but he's also worked with middle school students and developed some amazing connected birdhouses, which he'll be talking about later. He talked about at the Maker Fair in San Mateo earlier this year. We met, Casey and I went to a conference at Google and just happened to sit down at the same table at lunch with Adam, and all the things he said were amazing and things that we would love teachers in Sonoma County and throughout the country to do. And we asked him to come out here and share what he's doing. He's also partnering with some research on maker education. So aside from hearing him here, I highly recommend you check out his breakout session afterwards. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Adam Maltese to the stage.
And I did not pay Matt for that introduction, although afterward I might have to buy him a beer or two. So just to give you a little bit of warning, I'm definitely coming at this without all the awesome stories that you guys have or you will create. We're coming at this much more from a research perspective, trying to think about what's happening here. And my background is in science education, and so my research particularly is around how we get people interested, engaged, and how they might continue to keep that engagement in STEM or science. And so, you know, this is what happens after some wine and beer at the opening event, is you go back and you make a talk with some tongue-in-cheek sort of things. And I don't think all education is bad. Of course, I don't think that, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement. So I'll talk a little bit about that today. So just generally what we're doing, some of the projects we're looking at and focusing on, what makes a maker educator. You know, are there certain things? You guys are probably all the actual choir. If I yell, "Can I get an amen?" I probably get it from you all. And so I'll talk later about how we get people here, or what can we do to get people here that aren't here. Those are really the people that we're really interested in trying to engage in this. But how do people go along this journey, like Catherine just talked about, from being afraid or not knowing, you know, how to get started to something more advanced and actually engaging kids in some of this awesome learning. Tomorrow, Amber, who works with me in Indiana, is going to talk a little bit about what makes a maker educator. We're looking to talk some of the education talk. We're looking at the next-gen science standards and trying to identify some of what we see in those standards in making practices, and I'll show you a video related to that in a minute. This next one, you know, I should have reworded that. It's not what happens when kids fail. It should be what happens when the stuff that kids build fails. We're going to start studying that more, and how do they build up resilience and persistence and those sorts of things. And then more and more, we're thinking about how do we get making to kids that don't get it. You know, that are under-resourced in a number of ways, underrepresented in STEM. How do we get making out to those kids? So this is the first video. You guys can play this. Oh, let me set this up for a minute here. So what we've done in some of our research is there are some local making programs where it's a nice combination, where the local science center, small local science center, does some aftercare at the local schools, elementary and lower middle grades, and what we've been doing with them, partly for their own evaluation purposes, but also because we're interested, is putting GoPros on kids while they're participating in these events and watching what happens. And I tried to get a clip that won't make you sick. But this is a clip of video, and what you'll see off to the right of each screen is, rather than just pulling up the video, I wanted to show you a little bit of sort of how we work. This is an online program you can use too, but it's through the University of Minnesota, but, where you can annotate things as the video is playing. And so what you'll see popping up on the right side of the screen, and you probably can't read it, but are notes that we're making to try to code what's happening in these videos. And so we're looking for, again, trial and error. We're looking for, are they doing certain things that we would identify in the standards, and then we as a research team can go back and forth and talk about those and argue over those, or come up with our own interpretations. But I wanted to capture that so you get a little sense of what we're trying to do. This is a student working with little bits. So what you just said is maybe if I unconnected this. So what we see in a lot of these things like that is, and these in particular, a lot of trial and error. But what we find really amazing is, particularly in this case, there's a lot going on that is being missed by, say, if you're an educator trying to run the room, you've got 10, 15, 20, 25 kids doing all this, you can't be there for everyone. And so that's part of the reason why we're finding this to be a really interesting way to go about this, is these little things. The student is doing some of this testing, she's asking herself some questions that are really interesting. So trying to think about both what's happening and are there opportunities that we could come up with some guidance for people trying to do programs like this that would help things. One of the points being, a lot of times we see the assistants in here doing it for the kids. So the kid will say in this scenario, I can't get these to light up. And rather than firing back with, well, what have you tried? Or what do you think could work? Or giving some suggestions, you see them jump in and do it. And then the kid goes, oh, that's awesome. Right? But essentially, you've missed the opportunity for the kid to actually participate in that. And so this is sort of just what we're doing and how we're thinking about this. Matt suggested that we sort of talk about a little bit of a story, and I'll talk a little bit about the birdhouses we're building tomorrow morning. But just to give you a little bit of background, because this is what our initial conversation was about, I had been a little bit frustrated with some of the making that I had seen, or what people were calling making, which was, let's get kids involved in making an LED blink for 5 minutes, and there was no sort of life beyond that. Once the LED burnt out or the battery died, it was over. And so what I was trying to do, thinking of actual classroom settings, I'm a former middle school teacher, so that's sort of where my heart and brain rest in terms of thinking about education frequently, is I want them to learn more science from this. And it doesn't have to be blatant. I don't have to be didactic in that teaching, but can we create projects and things where after they've participated in the making, they can actually now learn more about the natural world through what they've made. And so our first idea was a birdhouse, a wired birdhouse with a bunch of sensors. And it's still an ongoing idea, and I'll talk about that a little bit, and then a little bit more tomorrow. But we created some birdhouses with sensors and some with Raspberry Pis and cameras. And learning tons about birds, but also learning something about actually, the creation of a product and rolling something out to other people. This is a little picture that we took in my backyard with a bird cam a couple weeks ago. These are some wrens. 4 baby wrens were born, and then we actually missed it because we were out at IKEA, but they took off. They took off one Saturday morning because we came back and the nest was truly an empty nest. So some pretty cool stuff. Overcoming misconceptions about birds. Mama bird doesn't just sit on the nest and lay a bunch of eggs and then hang out there the whole time. In these cases, lays 1 egg at a time, and then the second to last egg, she'll sit on the nest and sit there for a while, but is leaving frequently to feed herself. So things like that. We need to think more about how to involve the kids in this. So far, we've really involved the teachers, and then they were going to have it at their schools. But we need to think about how we can involve more kids, middle school age probably and up, in terms of the building of the house, the wiring of the sensors, and then the programming if they're interested, and what they do with the data once they go from there. When we presented this at Maker Faire a couple weeks ago, just down the road here, tons of interest, and that was awesome. And people were talking about owl boxes and things that we don't really have in Indiana, but that a lot of people talk about out here. And so, no, that's a good thing. That's good. Maybe go home and look up owl boxes online for a couple hours. So there's lots of interest, and I was really excited because there were a lot of people who were just interested innately about their local environment. They wanted to know more about what's going on in their backyard, at their schools, those sorts of things, and that's awesome because that's really where our heads are in terms of coming up with some of these ideas. And then this last one, I wasn't really sure how to put this on there, but influencing others how to think about the bird. So the ornithologist, the bird doctor that we're working with on this research as sort of our expert, based on us bothering her, and it's not, she's not bothered by it, thankfully, but I always consider that it's bothering her. What I'll show tomorrow is she had some freeze-dried bird specimens. She does brain research on them, so sometimes they have to euthanize the bird. So she has some freeze-dried specimens. Well, we did 3D scans of those specimens and then printed some of them out, thinking this would be pretty cool to have some actual printed scans of actual bluebirds and these things. Well, what this has influenced her to think through is they've now, in their research, she researches female aggression in birds, and what they've now done, based on us contacting them and them seeing about these prints, is they've now printed off, I guess the right word would be like a bodice, but they've printed off parts of a bird skeleton that they can wrap around some of their specimens. They then coat it in feathers, and now they're using that to measure the different attacks that birds have on them. And then we were just talking a couple of weeks ago about putting force sensors and those things in there to see, can we really measure some of these things? And so we're pushing and pulling on each other, and we're she's going to be stepping out into this area that's essentially taking her research that's cutting edge, but adding making and 3D printing and those sorts of things into that, and really pushing it even further out there. But really allowing things to be done that just have not been done in the field before. So that's really exciting. Like many things, there's challenges, are technical challenges, and I'll talk about this more tomorrow. I mean, we're still sort of in this, not even alpha phase, like negative alpha phase or something like that, of trying to get this really to work out in the field. There's a cost. We realize that for the Raspberry Pi cameras, it's going to probably be around $60 plus a birdhouse. For the sensors, depending on how fancy you want it, it's probably going to be somewhere between $100 and $200 to put these packages together, and that's a lot of money for classes that might be under-resourced or just even resourced. But anyway, so that's something we're talking about. And then, and I'll talk about this more tomorrow, but we had an issue where the first birds to take up residence in the birdhouse were invasive species. Okay. And the way you deal with an invasive species is you kill it. That's the proper way. And so I went into one of the classes, and I I notified, as soon as we had invasive birds in one of the birdhouses, I notified some of the teachers and said, okay, hadn't thought about all these interesting things that are going to happen, but we're out in the wild, this is happening. What do you think about how you would deal with invasives? And again, we'll talk about this more tomorrow. But I went into one classroom to do some troubleshooting on the technology, and as I left, one of the boys looked at me and said, don't kill our birds. Okay. I don't want to be known as that guy. Please. Thinking about there's real learning opportunities around invasive birds, but trying to sort of do right by nature, do right by teaching, trying to think exactly puts us in odd situations that we haven't fully figured out yet. I'll try to run through this pretty quickly here, but just some things that we've been thinking about with making and that came up somewhat last night in the opening talks and stuff and other conversations we've had. Right, there's no single blueprint for this, so just keeping that in mind, and there's definitely advice you can get from all the expertise in the room here, but it's got to work in your context and for your situation. What counts as making? We can have an academic argument over what's included, what's not included, but does it really matter? It's more of, I think, the ideals and the background, the idea behind it that matters most. Who is making? Generally, if we're talking about adult makers, it's, well, let's just see, white males, 45 years old, $110,000 income, advanced degrees, right? That's what all these surveys say, is those are the people who are attending Maker Faire generally, who are getting Make Magazine generally. We need more diversity than that. And we think there's also potential at the kid end of things, but we need to figure out exactly how this can all work so that we can get more people involved. How do we spark and support the learning? So not just get people excited with some of the making activities we have here, but how does that continue when they go home or when they leave? And then what we're focusing on is what happens during the making. Are the kids getting more engaged, more interested in the class? Whether it's art class, science class, math class. So are there shifts in attitudes? Are they learning skills? We were having a discussion last night that everyone's convinced that they're learning, but it's not always easy to document, especially not on standardized tests, the way they're set up right now. But yet that's the world we all live in as educators. And then again, how do we reach those not here? So how do we get administrators that aren't here to start buying into this? How do we get teachers that aren't here to start buying into this? And other community members to start thinking that this could be a great opportunity for schools. It's not all that bad, if that sounded bad. Kids enjoy and prefer to make materials. Some of our survey data says this. Actually, most kids, the large majority of kids, more males than girls, but most kids prefer to make materials rather than have them provided for them. And this next one comes from the recent release of the NAEP tech study that just came out from the government. Most kids say they can use tools to fix things, and I think they say that their parents often taught them how to do that, and surely teachers did too. We've also done a lot of work and we're doing work right now for STEM professionals, a good number of them talk about how making was key to them initially getting interested and continuing that interest, whether it was tinkering in the garage, in the basement, breaking toys and trying to put them back together, those sorts of things. They're getting harder and harder to break and put back together. That's one of the things we're trying to think about. But there are amazing stories everywhere. Again, you all have those stories, and so we're interested in hearing those, but also having you share those. And then we're trying to take on some of this work of how do we actually evaluate this? If you need to go back to your administration, other teachers to convince them, funders, whoever it is, how do we come up with some tools that can help you say, here, I can now document what's happening here, or I can show that at the beginning of the year these kids didn't have these skills that they could use their hands with, but now they do. How do you actually show some of this? Just a final little lesson here, and then I just pulled this from my own kids from this weekend. We went to the local science center. They had a stomp rocket thing going on, and in total it probably cost $5 or less to do this, but it was quite exciting. There were some PVC pipes, recycled soda bottles, some tape, some construction paper with rocket designs printed out on them that the kids could cut out, some scissors, and then, right, we all probably have access to kids with lots of energy, sometimes too much energy, and enthusiasm, especially if they can do something that looks different than the typical education that they're used to. If you mix it all in the right way, and then here's the next video. This is my son, and it's in slow motion. It's supposed to be in slow motion. If it wasn't in slow motion, I wouldn't be able to capture him slowed down enough to actually see this. So he just put the rocket on the shooter. And he fires the rocket right all the way across the room. And they had just as sort of fun targets. They had different sort of rings made of foam circles in the middle of the room that they could shoot through at different heights. But again, it took 15, 20 minutes to put these together. Of course, they could be reused for other purposes. But they loved it, and they were starting to even realize that if I shoot it if I jump on it too hard, the air just sort of pushes through and falls off. If I jump on it just the right amount, it really gives it a good lift. If I angle the sort of the whatever, the tube shooting it off at different angles, right, I can get it to fly at different angles and at different trajectories and those sorts of things. And so all of that for just a couple dollars. And so it was pretty awesome to see that. And just one thing to leave you with, it's definitely not what's in the space. A lot of times we get hung up on sort of, do you have the 3D printer, do you have the laser cutter? But it's really what you make happen in the space, or what you let kids make happen in the space that matters most. And yeah, if you want to continue to talk, I'll be here through the whole conference. Otherwise, you can reach out and get us on Twitter or so again, thank you for too much of your time, but thank you.